Welcome back to RippleLIVE. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Mark. I'm here with Steve, and this is episode number 15, I believe. Correct, Steve?
15, part due.
Part due. Yeah, we had a little technical glitches last week, but you guys figured it out.
Yeah, we did. You know, it's interesting. You know, with the internet, you know, it took about 2 weeks to track down. Unfortunately, in order to do a stream, you need a minimum 10 megabits per second up, and normally we have way more than that. We have a pipe that'll give us 50 megabits per second up, and the idea is, you know, regardless whether it's 10 or 50, it has to be consistent. It can't drop, it can't spike. It back to like 2000, it was crazy. So you want to hear a funny story? The way our neighborhood is wired is, you know, you have a node and the fiber comes into that node and then it branches out with coax cable to all of these houses, or what they call taps. And we're at the bottom of the series. It's pretty much like a series of Christmas lights. So these taps, with all these houses up to number 46 at the top, it turns out that this little old lady had didn't have the coax cable screwed in all the way into her modem, and it was introducing all this noise, which was affecting, you know, everybody's internet. So
everybody downstream from her.
Everybody downstream, and it literally, they had trucks, they had managers. It was crazy, but resolved. So now I'm like, okay, I'm done messing around. We're looking at getting like a straight, you know, fiber optic pipe right to the house. So then we have to deal with this. But in the meantime, you know, we had to kind of go through that pain, but we're back. So
we're back, and just to clip for if you're new, welcome. This show is really about answering your questions about Final Cut Pro 10 and related subjects. That's what we do here, best we can. And generally, we'll get it started off with a tip to get things going, but feel free to post your question at any time in the chat window there. And I guess I'll just kind of keep going with that before you go into your tip. So in that chat window, sometimes it fills up. We'll get to your questions as best we can. If you want to make sure we get to it, you click the little $ and make a nominal donation, and that will take your question and pin it up there and put in a big color and make sure we see it. Or if you just want to support the show, that would be great. We appreciate any donations that keeps the show going. Yeah. So that's how to ask questions. We'll post, but I think first Steve is going to start with a tip that he really wanted to do. Was it 2 weeks ago now? Okay, yeah.
This tip, I've been wanting to get this tip out there now for, I don't know, it seems like 4 weeks, but I'm ready to show the tip now. Okay, so let's do it. This is a fun tip that I use all the time. So let's head over to Final Cut Pro 10 and I'll show it to you, and then we'll get to your questions. So, all right, so here I have 4 clips in the timeline, and a lot of times I like to preview them as a stack. I like to see them like compared to one. I want to compare one against the other. And in our Editing Faster tutorial, one of the things that I show is that if you move your playhead to a clip, it's at the first frame, you press C to select the clip, then Command X to cut it. Then I want to move to this clip here, and if I want to, of course, select it, I can it's actually selected because you have the active clip indicator over it. So let's see, Command X, and then upstream, or move the playhead back, and then Option V. And so now I have these clips stacked on top of one another. One things I think is really fun is to know that you could preview these while you're looping it. For example, if I press the X key, that will, you know, or the C key, it really doesn't matter. But point is, I could select that top clip and then press the / key, and I could loop that clip as long as looping is turned on. Now looping is Command L, and then if you have that turned on, the playhead will just kind of loop over that. So what's nice is if I want to see the clip directly below it while it's looping, I can press V for disable, and now I'm looking at the clip directly below it. Now, if I want to see the clip on the bottom, I'm using another keyboard shortcut. It's a Command down arrow. So I need to move the selection one level down. So Command down arrow moves the selection there. And if I press V, now I'm seeing the bottom clip. So this is a kind of a way of being able to, like if you have maybe a stacked set of graphics or titles or layered Photoshop document, you can do this. I'm going to press V to turn that back on, and then Command up arrow, press V to turn that back on. Okay, now that's a really great way to look at stacked content. But I'm going to go ahead and undo those last few steps just so you can see there's another way that you can do this, because typically you wouldn't, stack these, once you're in the timeline, you probably wouldn't do that. So another way to approach this is use a audition clip. Now here I have some clips. I have these same clips. I have this clip here of the Pier and Catalina, and then, by the way, there's Catalina, new OS that's coming. So I'm going to command click that, and then click this, command click. So I have these 3 clips selected, and I'm going to turn them into an audition clip, which will put them into a container. Command Y, create audition. And I have, this happened earlier where it didn't create it, just disappeared. I'll make sure I'll do it again. Funny, earlier let's just try create audition. And where did it go? Yeah, let me make sure that I'm not.
Weird.
Yeah, oh, yeah, weird, isn't that? See, isn't that weird?
It's not those audition clip. You've got an audition clip in there, but it's got the kids in it. But is that a different one?
Yeah, it's a completely different one. I'll try it one more time. So I'm going to command Y.
Go down. It's creating.
Oh.
You're filtering by creating.
No, I wasn't filtering. See, there it is. Where is it? Where'd it go? Where is my audition clip? All right, forget that. I'll just use one that's already created. I have no idea why those aren't being created. So.
Could it be pushing it down into you've got collapsed categories lower? Is it in any of those?
I don't think so.
I
mean, I don't want to sit here and spill. I could spill open all of these, but if they go to the library level, which is a really good thing to do, it's like you can see it's not there.
That's a different library, isn't it?
Yeah, let's see. Maybe it's there.
You could also create a smart collection for audition clips.
Actually, this wasn't supposed to be this complicated.
Nothing ever is supposed to be that complicated.
Look at this. Watch. Select, and then select. Command Y. Look, you can see I'm looking at all clips. There's no clip filtering. I'm looking at the entire library, and it's just not there.
Your clip count is increasing.
I know.
All right. So whatever. So let's move on. What'd you say?
The item count at the bottom of the browser is increasing every time you do it.
Yeah, I think it's in another. I think if you made a smart collection of auditions, it would show up.
All right, let's do that.
Maybe.
So, by the way, there's these library level smart collections. So let's just go ahead and create a new smart collection, and let's call this audition. And double click. This should work. Hopefully, I have no idea where it went. And we're going to add a rule, and we're going to type, and we're going to do audition.
Audition. Huh.
Okay. And it's
not there.
See, it's not me. It's not me. This is proving this isn't me.
And is it definitely not it's definitely not those clips that are somehow the wrong thumbnail.
No. That's funny.
There's wait. Spill open the other. You got to spill open the other event. In the browser, right under the kids, there's another. Says right there. Open that up. Yeah, spill that open. There it is.
All right, there it is. Hey, you know what? I created, how many audition clips are those? All right.
There's all the ones you made. They're all there.
All right, so now, the problem is I guess I just have too many things open. Look at this. I have just too many things open here. Just whatever. Getting back to the point at hand. Why did I do all that? Because the inside here are 3 clips. Now what I want to do is I want to replace this clip. So I'm going to press X, select that, and I'm going to I'm going to do replace that. So I'm going to park this playhead over this clip, and I want to maintain the duration of this clip. So I just want to select that and press Option R. So basically what I've done is replaced that clip with Audition, maintaining the timing. Now one of the reasons I don't like Audition clips that much is, for example, if you hit Control Option left and right arrow, if the clip's different length that you put inside it, notice it's affecting the duration downstream. See that? So if the clips are of different length, right? So one of the things I do is I create an audition clip, put it into the timeline, and then press Shift-Command-G to break apart the clip items. So I'm going back to what I started with, is like, I'll make the audition chip, then break them apart, then then go ahead and start looping the clip, then use my Command down arrow key, and then disable or enable the ones directly below it. So point is that if I know that if I have more than one clip and I want to compare them in context, I'll create an audition clip, insert the clip, break them apart. And the reason I break them apart is because you can see if they stayed in the audition, this clip would push these other clips downstream by that extra duration right there. So I tend to use audition clips in a way that maybe you wouldn't think to use them, which is this way. Put them in initially, break them apart, and then compare the various layers using these keyboard shortcuts. And also too, this allows me to throw different filters and whatnot on these, and again keeps them separate in the timeline. All right, which is weird.
I don't know why, but it was putting it in another event. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was very cool. I like that. I like that idea of avoiding messing up the timing of your project by breaking apart an audition, creating it first in the browser, and then do an Option R replace edit. That's great. Yeah. Very, very cool.
All right. So, any questions?
Lots of greetings from everywhere, from Houston, Texas, to the Netherlands, to Namibia, Singapore, Florida, Arizona. But no questions. So guys, come on, bring them on.
So in the meantime, so Mark, right now you're teaching filmmaking up in the Bay Area right now to a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
kids,
it's really great. So there's an organization called SF Film, sffilm.org, that's in San Francisco. They put on the San Francisco Film Festival every year is one of the things they do, but they do a ton of educational outreach. And in the summer, they run a couple of filmmaking camps for high school students. So there's a 2-week beginner class and a 2-week advanced class, and I'm now teaching the 2-week advanced class, and it's great fun teaching all these high school kids. There's groups, like right now we have 15 kids, and they're in 3 groups of 5 each, and they have to do a little bit of everything. And I'm doing it's a 10-day thing that includes writing a script, storyboarding, everything. And they have screenwriters come in, they have cinematographers come in, they have directors come in. So I'm doing I do a couple of days on how to use the gear. We're shooting everything on iPhones. So we're providing these kits with iPhones and a variety of extra material for stabilizing them. So we have iographers to stabilize them. We have different tripods, Joby tripods and full tripods. We've got DJI Osmo Mobile 2 gimbals that we just introduced for the advanced class yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. They love, running around with those things. And we actually left that to the end because it can be a bit of a distraction, because I'm really trying to enforce, like, all this stuff should support your storytelling goals. Like, don't get all tied up in the gear. The purpose is to support your storytelling goals. And they eat it up. It's really fun. It's really fun to teach.
So
because
what's the age range for these kids?
It's like 14 to 17. Maybe 13 to 18, but they're, they're high school kids, and they come from all over the Bay Area, and they're, some of them, like, favorite movies are anything from Lady Bird to Spirited Away to one with Godfather. It's really interesting, the broad knowledge they have of film and how they approach it. And I tell you, it's funny, on the software side, the software side's kind of easy compared to teaching all the hardware, because I do a lot of stuff on sound is so incredibly important, and it's not as interesting. They want to shoot everything. It's like, you got to have great sound. So we have boom poles, and they have shotgun mics, and I have them out there, and they're shooting now on Filmic Pro. And so having really tried to focus on getting good sound. But once they sit down in Final Cut, they're like this. I mean, you know, they don't need a lot of work on organization for what they're doing because it's not a ton of footage, although I try to teach them keywords and smart collections and how to organize your footage and all that stuff. But they just get it. They just get right in and go to it. So most of the you know, the stuff that we teach on Final Cut is not like standing there and giving a lecture on how to do auditions or editing. It's more like going around and helping them individually, because some of them are just so far ahead of the curve. It's incredible. But they all have their own way of doing things, right? You know, I don't think anyone has ever sat and watched a tutorial. They just like get in and rip at it. So it's fun to sort of say, that's great, but here's how you can do this. In fact, they're doing multicam. Each group has 3 cameras. So I taught them yesterday how you can shoot a scene with cameras at the same time and throw it into Final Cut and immediately do a multicam. And that was cool. They liked that. So really, really fun to be working with a bunch of, you know, kids who are into it and excited about filmmaking.
Have you found
and a shout out to Sam. I was going to say a shout out to Sam Messman at We Make Movies, because I'm actually teaching this because he was tied up teaching a bunch of kids in Chicago, so I got to go in and do this. And there's nothing I love more than teaching. Steve and I are both teachers. That's why we do what we do. We love teaching, and teaching high school kids is just, it's a special thing. It's really great.
So you found that were a lot of them new to Final Cut and they just picked it up? You know.
Yeah, some were brand new. Some brand new to editing. I mean, some of them had, you know, really struggled with the idea of setting in and out points. Honestly, there was like this didn't get the whole. It was very new to them, but they picked it up. And other ones have been editing on a little bit of everything. So it's funny because I introduced the idea that you could use because they're shooting for a couple days before I go back. In fact, they shoot a little bit today and Monday and Tuesday. I go back on Wednesday. And I said, like, you know, I told them how they can edit on their phones because they can use iMovie to trim clips, to do string outs, and then you can bring that thing straight into Final Cut. Nobody did it the first week. They just were like, they just wanted to do it all on the computer. And the other thing is they airdrop everything. So they shoot all their stuff on their phones and they just airdrop it to their computer. You know, that's just boom. You know, it's really, really fast. So it's cool.
That's cool.
Lots of questions.
All right, so we got some questions.
Oh, good.
I'm going to scroll back up here so we don't want to miss any of them. And if we do, just post them again. All right, so Chiwitan has a question. Scott Markowitz has a question. So there's, okay, great. So Scott, you could lift the audition clip out of the primary storyline and change the composition mode to behind. Then it won't affect the overall timing. That's something. That's a really, really good idea. So you lift the audition clip out of the primary storyline, change the compositing mode to behind.
Yeah, that'll like make it effectively below instead of above.
That's true. That's something I haven't thought of. That's a really good tip. That's a really good tip.
Yeah, I like that.
I've got a question about subtitles. I can't seem to change my font type in Final Cut 10 subtitle editor. I create captions using the text tool, but I'd like to do it through the subtitle tool.
Okay, can I talk about this?
Yes, please.
This is sort of this has been coming up a lot.
Yes,
and in fact, I have a webinar coming up in August that's about editing interviews in Final Cut Pro 10. And part of that is going to cover this because there's a lot of confusion about captions versus subtitles. And Chris, what you're talking about, it's not Final Cut Pro subtitle editor, it's a caption editor. Captions, some subtitles are really totally separate things. And it's gotten really confusing because of social media, captions are being used in a way that they were never intended to be used. So first of all, captions are generally designed for hearing impaired. In other words, which is different than subtitles. Captions will include things like cues about external sound environments, like birds in the trees, or there's a radio in the background, or a doorbell just rang, or a telephone rang. They'll include all those cues. That's kind of what captions are designed for, is to provide a complete oral experience for hearing impaired. As such, captions have certain standards so that they can be read in a television program or a web program. That's why you have the CC, they're called closed captions for a reason. They're embedded in the stream, and they have certain requirements for formatting in order to meet the standards and be used in a broadcast environment. In Final Cut, you can take those closed captions and force them to be open now. In other words, burned in, because by default, if you use captions and you publish them, you publish your work, you'll be like, where'd they go? Because you won't see them unless the user enables them. Final Cut has a switch where you can burn them in, but you still are limited to formatting them. There's two types. There's CEA 608, which is sort of the old standard that'll work everywhere, and ITT, which is designed for submission to the iTunes store as a package. If you wanted, each of those have different formatting options, and they're both limited. But if you really want full formatting, you want to convert your captions to titles. Okay, so if you want to use subtitles, it's really titles. And there's a couple tools you can use to do that. If you go to Spherico, S-P-H-E-R, I should bring it up instead of talking to it. Spherico.com, they have something called X-Title that you can convert your captions to titles, and then you can format them any way that you want.
You want to share your screen, Mark?
Yeah, let me bring it up before I do that to show that. And we're going to cover this whole topic in detail.
The short answer to his question is the formatting options are limited, right? So I mean, changing fonts and things like that. I mean, that's just not possible.
That's right. You can't change as much as you'd like. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen now. Let's see here. Share screen. Start sharing. So I'm on Spherico.com/film tools. Okay, and here you have a bunch of different tools for converting different subtitle types and caption types, including this one here, X-Title Caption Convert. Donation freeware allows you easy conversion of caption projects into standard title projects. So, Chris, that's what you want, is you want to use this thing, and it'll take everything, it'll move them down. It'll change the role, because the role will no longer be a caption, and it'll convert it to that. So that's kind of one way to handle that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that answer. So yeah, there's a lot of confusion about it. So that's great. Okay, so there was a question. There's a lot of questions out. By the way, thanks for the questions. Let's see here. Let me back up here.
Steve, I can tell you the next one after that.
Okay, go ahead.
It says, do you have to import media into Final Cut, or can you just drag and drop from external drive? Will that affect playback in the timeline?
The answer to that question is you can certainly drag and drop. And I have to tell you that there's two ways to import media. One is drag and drop, and the other one is using the import window. And I'll tell you my preferred method. And I'll answer the question straight away. It doesn't affect playback, drag and drop. The only thing that would affect playback is the frame size, the resolution, and the frame rate, the codec that you're running, and the speed of the drive. So if you're playing 4K media, off your, I'm just kind of coming up with something. Maybe you're trying to play red media or whatever, something that's high bit rate, high frame rate, off of a slower drive. You're not going to be able to. So it's really dependent on the drive. So let's assume that you have a fast drive, and that's not the issue. Drag and drop is just all it's doing is it's either going to create a pointer to the file, or it's going to import it into the library. So let me just show you. Let me jump over to.
Good. Yeah, you need to know what it's going to do. If you drag and drop, you need to know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So
and drag and drop is importing.
Yeah, drag and drop is importing. I want to I'm going to jump over here. I'm going to reveal it. I'm going to these are inside. I'm going to pull this media out real quick, because so basically I have a folder of media here, and I'm going to just call this. I'm going to call this winery. Let's see, select, and then call this winery. This is winery footage. So if I open this up, I have some clips from a winery that Mark and I filmed a few years back. So I have this folder, and I have it, and this could be on a drive. It could be on your desktop. It doesn't matter where it is. That's the point. But I'm going to hold Command Tab, and I'm going to tab over to Final Cut. Notice I haven't released my mouse yet. So now I'm going to take this folder, and it'll be a managed library. But if I hold down the control key, watch what happens. Instead of getting the plus, I'll get a little hook arrow. What that's telling me is that Final Cut is going to be creating a symlink to that media. In other words, it's not going to copy it into the library. It's going to refer to the library where it currently is, whether it's on your desktop or it's on your drive. And this 9 times out of 10, this is how I bring in my media. It's the fastest. I'll either bring it in as a managed or bring it in as an external copy. The only reason I would use the import window, which is I'm bringing it up by command, the only reason to use the import window is, of course, you have a media card connected and you want to bring in something off a media card. But assuming the media is already on your hard drive somewhere, and it's really slow process to go to the desktop and then find it. And look, I can find that folder on my desktop, which is right there. But I had to open the window, I had to select desktop, I had to choose winery, and now I have to click import selected. Oh, and I need to make sure leave files in place or copy to libraries. I've just given you there's 4 steps there. We're completely unnecessary if you just drag and drop using the methods I just showed you.
Steve, did you show the preferences so they can see what was going to happen by default?
Okay, that's a really good point. Let me jump back over to preferences. That's a good point. If you go into Final Cut Pro Preferences and under Import, you'll notice this right here, copy files to library. That's the default behavior. So if I drag a folder from the Finder and into an event, the default behavior will be copy to file storage location. That would be managed media. But if I had this selected, every time I drag a folder, it would automatically default to creating symlinks. So, if 9 times out of 10, if your media is stored on a server like ours is, this is what we typically do around here is we leave the files in place, and this is what I leave checked. So with that checked, I don't have to hold down the control key. By the way, it would do the opposite if this was selected. So now leave files in place is selected, and then if I go back, to the library, see, notice the default behaviors. It's creating a symlink. But if I hold the control key, if I hold down the option key now, it'll reverse it to copying it into the library as a managed file. All right.
Steve, can you bring open the preferences window one more time?
Yeah.
I'd like to add one more comment on that. Just the preferences window for importing.
Yeah.
So if you select that one copy to library storage location, that doesn't necessarily mean copying inside the library. By default, it does. But you can set a location to copy media to, because you may still want to copy media. You might not want, when you're bringing it in, it's coming from a card or something, but you want to copy it to a specific folder outside the library, maybe because you're in a shared environment. So that copy to library storage location means copy to the library storage location that you've established in the library inspector. So if you select the library and go to the library inspector, there where it says storage locations, right there, storage locations. So this one, the media is chosen in the library, but Steve could choose to store all his media on, like let's say the library is on his desktop or his Mac, and he wants to store all the stuff on a RAID.
My server here.
On your server, yeah.
So I can create a folder here and says Steve Media. Click Create, and I click Choose. And now Steve Media is set for the copying place. So now what you're saying is when I go back over to Preferences and when I copy, it's going to copy to whatever I've established in that library.
Yeah, so if you drag and drop now, it'll copy it to that folder instead of inside the library.
All right. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I can probably pretty much do that. I think that's a library. I got so many libraries open. It messed me up before. I'm scared now. No, it's this library. Yeah, I think it's this one. I'm not even sure anymore. All right, I think they get the general idea because I get too many libraries open. Sure. It's gonna get messy. All right. Cool.
All right. So Houston Brown from Dallas, Texas. Houston is not from Houston, but from Dallas. Says, how do you trim layered clips all at the same time without trimming audio?
All right, let's find out. Let's jump
I don't even know how you trim layered clips. You can't trim layered clips all at the same time in any way, with or without audio, I don't think.
Well, is he saying at the same time or just, because you can only trim one clip at a time. There's no way, like you said, to trim multiple clips at the same time. So if you want to jump over to my interface again, Travi, you can see here I've got one clip.
Well, we need a clip with video because he's saying, how do you trim layered clips without trimming the audio?
All right. Well, this has video. I just have the clip appearance set for audio only.
Oh, okay.
I messed you up, didn't I? I messed you up. So bottom line is, so I have this clip here, and he's saying I'm assuming because this is a stacked clip that he wants to trim, and hey, it's trimming the audio too, right?
Yeah.
So
I think so.
So I think really the only way to deal with that was to detach the audio.
No. What if you just wait? Don't do that.
What?
Undo that.
All right.
Just double click on the audio waveform to expand. Yeah,
right.
And now you can trim the video
there you
separate
go.
from the audio.
There you go. I don't know why I didn't think about it. There you go.
Yeah, just expand.
Yeah, I don't know why I was making it complicated. This is my day for complicating everything. So yes, expand the audio, and now you can trim the video separately. So that's the answer to that question. Awesome. Okay.
Here's this is interesting because this guy Tim Rogan says he didn't say it as a question, but it kind of is. If you select a range on a clip in a timeline, press Command C to copy, and then move the playhead and paste, nothing happens. And he's correct. He's correct. I just did that.
Really?
You can try it out since you're sharing. Yeah, just select a range on.
Do it. Okay, so let's do that. So press R. So I'm going to select a range, right? And I'm going to copy that, right? Command C.
Yeah, now try to paste it somewhere.
All right. How about the end? Command V.
Sure. Nope. See, it pastes the last thing you copied.
All right. Well, let's try something. Let's try something else.
You can't.
Because wait. I'm not done yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm going to select that little piece of that guy. He's like doing that weird thing with his lip. Does this work? I think it'll work. All right. So Command C. I'm going to try Option V. Just see what happens. Option.
I tried it too.
All right.
Nope.
That's
Yeah.
lame. All right.
I don't think you can copy paste a range. I've never come across to do that.
Well,
but I can see why you'd want to do that.
Okay, Travis is giving me another D. He says try it with in and out.
Well, he's saying in and out instead of a range, right?
Yeah.
So in and out.
That should be the same thing. It should be the same thing, right?
No, it still doesn't work.
Yep.
So if look, this is whether you use I and O or whether you use a range key, it's still doing the same thing.
Should be the same thing. Yeah.
Right. Command C and then Option.
And you can see it's copying. No. Yeah. And it is copying. The copy command's available.
Yeah, that's really, really, really messed up.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim Rogan. Thanks a lot. That's a good. Yeah. I would say you can speed up playback. Way to slow down playback to more closely view the timeline as it scrolls past. Slower than normal speed.
You can speed up playback. Sorry to slow down playback to more closely view the timeline. I'm not sure what you're asking, William.
Can you play back slower than real time? I think is what he's asking.
So I'm going to zoom in on my timeline, okay? And let me go ahead and close that. So
the answer is yes. You just hold down the K key and then press L.
Oh yeah. So yeah, JKL. So basically, if you hold down the K key and then press L. Wait a minute. J. Let me zoom out here. So
go to one where you've got some audio there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, make sure your Mac audio is not too loud.
I want to make sure my Mac audio is not too loud because you're not going to like it. All right.
Go to one that's, there you go. Okay, something's got audio. Yeah.
All right, so you're saying, so this L will play, right? And you want to hold down the K and L together?
If you hold down K first and then press L.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're hearing this. Are you hearing this?
I'm not sure what's actually answered it below. Yeah, thanks, Scott.
There you go. All right.
Thank you, Greg Palmer, for your contribution.
Sorry about that. No worries.
There's a lot of...
these are good questions, really good.
What is a good source to instruct how to author surround sound for a DVD using Final Cut? DVD, ugh.
Does anybody, well, some people still like DVDs. I mean,
I guess so.
I mean, you could, I think that the question really is surround sound in general. I mean, I've looked at.
Yeah, there's nothing specific to a DVD.
There's nothing specific
you cover that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do, but there are definitely things to know about, properly monitoring a surround mix, because the bottom line is DVDs will support, 5.1 surround. The question is like, before you even get to that stage, how do you set up your channels? How do you set up a surround mix? How do you monitor a surround mix? I mean, I'm assuming that if this is something you're interested in, that you have the proper setup to actually monitor a surround mix, which means you have to have an interface box connected to 5 separate speakers, right, left, center, left rear, right rear, and then a LFE, or excuse me, low frequency effects or subwoofer. You have to be able to monitor that, first of all. And then assuming you're able to monitor, then of course you would use Final Cut Pro's really awesome interface to do your surround mix. And then you would output a 5.1 surround mix. Honestly, it's been so long since I've created a DVD, I can't even answer whether that DVD would honor those 5.1 channels. Maybe that's a question to put out there. I don't know. But here, we could find out. Let's see. So going into Final Cut, and by the way, I'm in here. Let's say I want to work in surround. Right now I'm in stereo, and you could tell that by looking at the stereo ballistics. But if you hit Command J, you can bring up the this little window here. That's where you can modify the timeline. I'm going to click Modify. And a lot of people don't know this, but under the hood, Final Cut Pro processes all audio in surround. So for example, I could switch to surround, and then right here, so stereo, so now I'm in at 5.1, and I click OK. Immediately, look, I'm getting 6-channel ballistics right here. So I'm now doing a surround mix. Even though this is stereo, Final Cut Pro knows where to send these channels within the surround matrix. So I'm seeing left and right play out here, but if I had a surround like effect, in fact, by the way, if you really want to find some surround effects, there are quite a few of them in your audio browser. So if you go in here and you go, let's see here, sound effects. The only thing I don't like about this is they don't literally tell you which one of these effects are surround and which ones aren't. It's probably
I know a glass effect.
Okay, one of these glass effects are. Let's see. Let's try this crash. Let's see here. Let me put this down here. And that's a stereo effect. The reason is I put it in here, and notice in the inspector it says stereo. So, Travis, you said there's a graph.
There is. I can't remember which one.
How about a crash glass? Let's try this. So let me try this crash glass. All right. Yes. See, I found Travis is right. I found a glass, but notice when I select it, it's a surround 5.1. It tells you. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you in here if it is a surround. It's kind of annoying. But bottom line is, if I play it, I'm going to make sure I'm not playing. Go further with this, of course, then you can go into, you can break these apart. You can say, look, I want 6 individual mono channels. And the reason you want to do that is because now I have independent control of every channel. And then when I go into the audio, but I am in the audio inspector. If I go into pan, show, and see, and now I go into surround, basic surround. Now each one of these I can put in the proper surround panning field. So each one of these I can then, choose which one. Actually, I was working on that one, but each one of these can be put into the proper surround space using this surround panning HUD, right? So you can alter each one of these channels. Of course, these are the separate individual channels, but getting back to your DVD question, I'm just going to walk through the process just so I can understand this. If I go back to File, I'm going to share this File, Share, DVD, and I'll just see if there's any settings. It's been a while since I've looked into this here. let's see here, because this is how you would build a DVD within Final Cut Pro 10. Hard drive to file back, just play movie. I'd have to do a test, but I think it should honor whatever your audio configuration is. If it's a surround project, it should honor that.
Yeah, if you look at the bottom, if that window, it tells you at the bottom, it says a 5.1 there.
Yeah, there it is. So yes, it will honor that. So again, it's been so long, but I wanted to walk through that, well, at least walk through the steps to see how you would approach a 5.1 mix. All right, awesome. That was an awesome question. I love diving into the.
There's another good one here that I think I can answer here from Anthony Biancella. Anthony Biancella. Is there a way to color grade video clips in the browser so that when you pull parts of the clip to the timeline, you don't need to do the grading clip by clip? This can be done with audio clips. Yeah, absolutely, you can do that. So I'm going to share my screen here and go to Final Cut. So kind of the setup for that is, if you've got, let's say, a long interview clip, which is this is not in a long interview clip, but let's say you've got a long interview clip, rather than putting it in your timeline, cutting it all up and copy pasting the correction everywhere, what you can do is select any clip in the browser. I'll select this one, go to the clip menu. You can't do it by right-clicking anymore because it was confusing people. They didn't understand what it meant. They saw this open clip command and they thought it meant put the clip in the timeline. But you have to remember that these clips are containers. Every clip is a container. So you can open up that clip container, that browser clip, and now I have this container opened, okay? I'm in its own timeline here. So this is the browser clip. So if I select it, Command 6, and let's use a color board, why not? And let me just do something fairly dramatic on it so you can see the difference. I'll increase the contrast and the saturation, and now I'll go hit the back arrow, and now this clip, even though it doesn't update the thumbnail, which is annoying, you can see that this clip is now graded. So if I just set any kind of in and out points on little chunks of it and edit into a project, every one of those ranges, I'm using Shift Command I and O, so I've got multiple ranges. Each of those edited into a timeline will already be color corrected. So that's a decent workflow for avoiding the need to do a big copy paste down the road. Although you can use a timeline index that'll help you with that.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions earlier. They had a lot of questions. I want to jump back earlier in the stream here. By the way, Greg Palmer, thanks for that donation. Really appreciate it. Let's go back here. Let's see. Greg Palmer, you're more of a comment. Greg, you said you've edited and resolved, very disappointed. Can you contrast your experience relative to where FCP 10 is? Well, that's a longer discussion. I mean, obviously they're completely two different user interfaces. One's track-based and one's magnetic timeline. If you're not used to tracks or you're used to the fluidity of Final Cut, you might find it frustrating. I like Resolve. I like the tools that are in it. I still prefer editing in Final Cut, bar none, to any other NLE because I'm not I'm so used to not dealing with tracks now. So maybe that was your disappointment. You may want to give us a little bit more information why you're disappointed. But I find Resolve to be a really powerful tool, especially with the color grading and the sound tools. Really great stuff. Okay, so RK Secker says, anyway, I have a project I'm editing where audio commentary being made about old 60mm film is longer than the actual film scene being shown. Any suggestions for doing this? Audio commentary being made about is longer than the actual film scene being shown. Well, I'm assuming you can, you could try changing the speed. You can adjust the speed of the clip. I think that's, a viable way of, changing the timing. It's weird that, I'd have to see more specific, but you could change, obviously you can change the speed of your clip. You can use freeze frames, as you pointed out. And in some cases, you could even change the timing of the audio, put the audio in a compound clip, and then you could, or just select the audio and then slightly adjust the timing of the audio. And if you don't want to do it too much because you're going to affect the characteristics of the audio, introduce artifacts. But you could adjust the audio too. It's a way of doing it. Okay.
I've got a good one.
Okay, go ahead.
Mark Nugent asks how to edit video clips in Final Cut Pro with timecode embedded in the clips. Resolve 16 provides it natively, however, Final Cut Pro doesn't seem to. Could you show an example of how this can be achieved? So you can reveal clip timecode both in the browser and in the timeline in Final Cut. And let me switch to sharing. Screen sharing options. I'm already sharing?
Yeah.
Already sharing, okay. So in the browser, you can turn on the, what is it, Control Command Y? Do you remember, Steve, the clip skimmer info? Yeah, Control Y.
Yeah.
Control Y is skimmer info, and it will show you
Hey Mark,
embedded timecode.
Can you do your full screen thing, Control Command F?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry, Final Cut crashed there. I had to come back in. So Control Y is the skimmer info, and that'll show you timecode. I'll also hit Option Command 2 to go in the list view, just so you can see you get a better view. In fact, Command 4 to close the inspector. So that's an option to show timecode in the browser. Then if you want to show timecode in the timeline, if you go to your effects browser, and you just do a search on time, there's a timecode filter. You throw that on a clip. Let's go back to the inspector. And for a timecode base, it'll show you timecode right here. By default, it's showing you the source timecode of that clip. But you can choose source or project, and you can set different timecode bases here. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, Mark. But those are two ways to get access to the source timecode in a clip, either in the browser or in the timeline.
Awesome. So P-Weeks asked a question, 123, are photos from your iPhoto copied, or is there just a pointer? They are copied. If you look on my screen here, I have access to my iPhoto library. They are in fact copied into the library. So whether you drop them straight away into the timeline, or if you drop them, this is a cool trick. If you drop on top of bring there, now you can then just bring them down, and then, see the plus. Let me see if I can. No, I can't. It's always gonna copy it into the library, but so it's gonna copy it into the library. It's not making basically it can't make a pointer to your iPhoto library is like Final Cut. It's its own library with its own photos inside the library. So it's got to pull it out of the library, copy it to your Final Cut Pro 10 library. Okay. There was a question about, I forgot how to add a favorite in the import window. Let me show you how to do that really quick. I think Eric Emmerich asked that. So if I go to the import window, open that up, I'll use that folder that I wanted. Let's say I have a folder here called Winery. It's got all my clips and maybe I got sound effects in it or photos, and I want to have access to it all the time whenever I open the window. So I'm going to drag this folder and drop it right on the word favorites, right there in the import window. As soon as I do that, you'll see it says now is there shortcut to all those clips in the favorite section. And then you can of course remove them, remove the sidebar, reveal in Finder, but that is how you create a favorite in the import window. All right, excellent question.
Another question from P-Weeks says, hi guys, is there a way to change the size of ITT captions? And P-Weeks, I refer you back to our earlier discussion. I don't know if you were here for that. No, there's not, because they're forced to meet the requirements for closed captions. If you want to change the size or other formatting, there's certain formatting for ITT fonts. You can change the bold, italic, underline, and the color position, but that's about it. Otherwise, you're going to need to convert it to a title instead of a caption if you want to change it more than that.
Looks like J.W. Pepper 1876 was asking something about Titlemations.
Oh, where is that?
It's up.
Let's see. I'm still way back. There's a bunch of earlier questions.
Yeah.
Can you, question or any text with a paragraph block. When typing, it seems to auto-track or spread the text to make all the text the same width. There's a way to override. Yes, I understand the question. So, and that's true with really any text. So am I screen sharing?
No.
Let's see. No, okay. I will do it now. Start sharing and go to Final Cut. And I will go to Titlemations, Ripple Titlemations, and let's throw in something like left panel, because I know that'll have that kind of feature. So with this left title, you have some text come in, and by default, the text is justified. It has full justification. I believe it's the correct terminology for it. And if you don't want that, if you go to the text inspector, not the title inspector, this is the specific parameters published from Motion to modify this. But if you go to the text inspector, the second one over, you've got these alignment options. And right now, it's this full alignment here. So I could choose instead, let me see actually what the justify, last left, last center, but it's actually doing a full justification. So instead, we can just justify to the left, and you can see how the text now changes and it's just justified to the left, or we could do to the right, or center justified. So it's just a function of that justification, which you find in the alignment in the text inspector, the second tab in the inspector. I like easy questions.
All right. Okay. The favorites. Okay, Jersey Soundtrack has asked, does Final Cut Pro 10 have an internal filter that will adequately handle audio that is hollow from a large room? Or do I need to purchase iZotope plugin to handle it well? No. I'm pretty sure, Travis, because he just did our excellent audio plugin webinar. I don't think there's a built-in echo remover in
De-Reverb?
De-Reverb.
No, I don't believe so. You need iZotope.
Yeah. So Travis confirmed. He's my resident audio expert here at Ripple Training, and there is no De-Reverb effect built into Final Cut. You're going to need iZotope. Although there's
iZotope, tri-channel EQ.
The other thing is that I'm hearing a lot about, and I got to try it. It's called Acousonus or Acus.
Acusanus, I think.
Acusanus. I really have trouble with companies that name their companies with just the most obscure. Maybe it's not obscure, but anyway, there's this plugin that we'll have to. Maybe you can find it up on the web, but it supposedly have all these really cool audio repair tools that will do things much simpler and easier than, let's say, iZotope. And iZotope is kind of the default standard. And iZotope, one of the things that it kind of has, a negative against is that, certainly earlier versions tend to crash Final Cut. It just does. And also there are some features in iZotope that aren't there within the Final Cut plugins. You really need to use their standalone iZotope interface to do things, to do certain things. What was that one thing you couldn't do with iZotope?
The repair tool for the Spectrum
repair
tool.
Yeah, there's a Spectrum repair tool that you can only use in iZotope's standalone UI. It's not even available in a plugin form in Final Cut. So given the fact that iZotope's plugins are really expensive, you definitely want to do your homework. I'm looking at this aforementioned Acousonus or Econus or I don't know, whatever it's called. Mark, do you know what it's called?
I think it's Acusanus.
Acusanus. Anyway, we'll look at that and we'll have some feedback for you at some point. All right. Some more questions here.
Yeah, a couple. Let me try to address a couple of them quickly here. There's it's Acusanus.com. ACC. Let me bring that up on my screen real quick. Screen. Oh, stop. I'm still sharing. Okay, great. So here it is. Acusanus.com. So you can go there and check out their auto repair tools. So we have one guy, Nathan McAvoy, says he doesn't have the issue with the range tool. He can use the range tool, hold down R to drag out a range, and it copies and pastes every time. Interesting. So I'd like to hear from others, but Steve and I both tried and we're not able to get it to do that. Rakesh Sahadavan says how to make audio stay in the second track. When I use a position tool and drag it to the bottom, it automatically goes back up unless you overlap with the top clip. So a couple things, Rakesh. First of all, there are no tracks in Final Cut. So when you say audio stay in the second track, I don't really know what you're talking about, except maybe you're trying to make the audio appear below something else. It's a connected clip. If it's not on the primary storyline, it's a connected clip. It's either connected to a video clip or it's connected to a gap clip in the primary storyline. You also said using the position tool to drag it. I would stay away from the position tool. It sounds like you're relatively new to Final Cut, and I would not use that position tool unless you have a specific need for doing so. And just let me show you. So I'm in Final Cut, and let's say I want to add a piece of audio. I'll do what Steve did. I'll just grab one of these sound effects as a piece of audio, a dramatic accent. I'm going to hit Q, and Q will do a connected edit. So now it's connected down here. Now, you might want some audio with nothing up top. I'm going to press Option W to insert a gap clip, and I can connect that audio there. I'm suspecting you're saying, hey, if there's nothing here, the audio is going to move up because it needs to be connected to something. So here it's connected to a gap clip, or it's connected to a video clip. And I could connect it, well, you can't connect it above it all. So I could drag it into the primary storyline so that it's sequential, but if I want it to be playing while something else is happening, I can drag it below as a connected clip. Don't need the position tool for that. Would definitely stay away from that. I don't know if I answered your question, Rakesh, so feel free to post if I didn't answer it. Is the level good? Sojord Vries says that Steve's volume is low.
Travis is on it.
Okay, great. You know, there's a great question here from Luxury Visuals that says, when do you know when you're done color grading? I keep making adjustments here and there every time I review the clips. How do you guys call it quits and are satisfied? I'd say that same question applies to anything in editing, period. Editing, titles, transitions, you know, making a scene look good. You're never done. You're done when it's taken from your hands because it's due.
Right.
You can never. You're never done. You aren't. You just have to stop at some point. Is my opinion. I don't know what you think, Steve.
George Lucas actually said, "Movies are never finished, just abandoned." Well, which I guess explains why we have like umpteen million versions of the Star Wars trilogy, because he just keeps tweaking. Like for a while, he was just tweaking with them constantly. So yeah, they're done when your client says they're done, and you just move on.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes till 12. Do you want to make some announcements?
Oh yeah, we're 2 minutes till 12. Wow, we had a lot of really, really great questions today. Anything else? Yeah.
I should answer because someone made a really good point here about, am I still screen sharing? Yes. About timecode. I should have brought this up and I didn't because it's relatively new, but it's a few things back. If you go to the window menu, I don't know if you can see my workspace now. Under the window menu, you can see project timecode or source timecode. You can bring that up as a separate window. I really should have mentioned that. This is really super useful tool that will show you timecode in the timeline of either your source or your project. And if you've got multiple clips stacked, it'll show you the timecode of all of them at the same time. This is a great tool. It's resizable, it's floatable, it's editable. You can right-click and copy timecode. It's just really powerful, and I totally forgot about it. I thought I should mention that. I can't believe time is up.
Yeah. Okay, so one last thing, VJ. Any way to normalize audio? You really want to. In fact, let me pull up something really quick here. This will answer that question. Last week, Travis did a tutorial called "Working with Audio Effects." If you're wondering about how to achieve really good audio without, using a third-party plugin, this is a must get. It's fantastic. We've got hundreds of people have watched this tutorial and they love it. And it's $30, but if you use the code that Travis is bringing up right now on the screen, you can get his tutorial for 20% off. And then also, if you're interested in how we do our streaming, this is really good at Open Broadcast. So put the code up there because these are little short subject tutorials. They're an hour, and you can digest this material. So if you're interested in how we set up the streaming, we have motion graphics. So all of these things will help support the show. We're trying to keep our tutorials, reasonably priced so that useful, and you have to sit there watching hours of content to get what you need. But you definitely want to check out this audio effects tutorial of Travis, and then Mark's got one coming up that we're going to be talking about shortly. In terms of our schedule, we have this is our schedule. So right now we're looking at, we've kind of shifted things for Fridays only because, as Mark was saying, he's teaching on, he's teaching those high school kids. So Thursday's been challenging. So we just kind of shifted everything to Friday, and that's the dates for the next few weeks. All right. So if we didn't get to your question, we did our best. There's, it's always challenging to get everything we can in an under hour. So if you really need something, question answered, use support@rippletraining.com. We monitor that pretty much every day, and we can answer your question using our support channel. Anything else, Mark?
I don't think so. That was fun. A lot of great questions, and let's do it again. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be back. Please join us, and let's have some more fun and learn stuff together.
All right. Have a great weekend, everyone.